when I went to get a home loan. When I went to get a home loan,
here we go.
I went to get a home loan, and I put in my application for this home loan. And because of the neighborhood I was applying in, they said no white people in there, and completely. No, wait a minute. That's not me either. That never happened.
Yeah, didn't quite work that way.
It didn't happen to me.
Yeah.
Alrighty, welcome back. Alabama Politics This Week. Josh Moon, David Person, and we are happy, as always, to have with us the House Minority Leader. The very time-challenged one Anthony Daniels. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm just sitting here with my chair in my office and just enjoying the day. This was brought to me after the Montgomery Boat Incident.
We got to paint it white though, man. That was a white chair that old boy was using.
That is hilarious.
If we weren't on camera, I would say what type of chair it is, but.
Oh man, it still remains one of my favorite videos of all time. It's just fantastic. What? Listen, we've kicked this thing off. So now you're running on no sleep and nothing but irritation and and maybe a little bit of hope. But how are things going so far? What's it look like? I've heard the rumors that we're going to have a quick session. We're going to get out quick and easy. Nobody's going to have any real issues, and we're going to run for the hills. Is that the theme?
Well, and I got a bridge I want to sell you on 65 that connects 65 in Winston County.
Yeah.
No, I think that for the most part, you'll see a fairly quick session. It depends on the tone and the tenor of the body in general. I think that the 24th of January will tell us exactly what type of session it will be. I think it's premature to say exactly what type of session it will be right now, because we know that the 23rd of January is the deadline for qualifying. And so qualifying actually controls the legislative session during the year that the election will be taking place. And so we'll look at that. Of course, there will be individuals with primaries. That'll change the tone. Don't necessarily think that the general election will change the tone or tenor, but I'm certain that those individuals with primaries, their tone will certainly be a lot different after qualifying is over. I would say on the 24th, and that on the 24th, you guys have me back. If I'm fortunate enough to get invited back, I certainly want to come on and I can give you an overview of what's going on in Goat Hill.
All right, look. We'll go ahead and pencil you in for the 24th. We won't do a time because I know that'll change 74 times between now and then. But listen, we're happy. We're always happy to have you. You can come on anytime and tell us what's going on down there. Because really you know as much as more than most everybody down there about what's actually taking place, what the backroom discussions are, how this is working, and what's going to come down the pike. I will say I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree, and I know that there'll be probably some unexpected fights that pop up, but at least going into this, aside from maybe 2 or 3 bills, the naturalized citizens bill. I mean, come on, give me a break.
Yeah, I think
the don't say gay bill. There are not a lot of those typical red meat bills that we have coming in.
Well, certainly, those particular bills. I had someone that called me, reach out to me in the hallway, and say, "Man, can you believe there's someone running against me? Do you know this guy's name?" I said, "Yeah, I'm familiar with him." He said, "Yeah, he's running against me over this particular bill." And I was like, "Yeah, if I was in his situation, I would probably do the same."
Anthony, I want to first ask you. Well, I want to first ask you, how are you doing health wise? You look good and you sound good. Everybody across the state and even outside of the state probably knows about the health journey you've been on and the fact that your wonderful wife gave you a kidney. And I just want to know how you're doing health wise.
I feel pretty good. Tomorrow we'll see kind of know a lot more. I got a biopsy tomorrow. You have the a biopsy 6 months after the procedure. Oftentimes the blood work tells you one thing, and but the biopsy kind of tells a more in-depth picture of what's really going on. And so this is a part of the process. Hopefully, prayerfully things are still working, going well, and there's no rejection. Just trying to make certain that I do everything that the doctors tell me to, and just be careful. Of course, there are a lot of things going around right now. You have the flu, different strands of the flu, and other things are going around. So just trying to be careful as possible. But for the most part, I feel pretty good. I think that getting back in the throes of things at the legislature it certainly brings on another layer of fatigue, but I feel pretty good about where I am right now, and my wife is doing great. The kids are in great spirits, and so things are. I'm very blessed and very fortunate to have such a strong uh, group of supporters across the state of Alabama and beyond the state of Alabama, and folks that have been praying for me. You meet people and you
Yeah,
see
man.
people.
Yeah.
That said, "Hey, my church has been praying for you." Folks that you didn't expect, that even knew, you didn't have necessarily a strong relationship with, but they just wanted me to know that,
Hmm.
hey, my church and we've been praying for you, and we'll continue to pray for you. And so, I just feel very fortunate, very blessed, and very honored to for people to think of you in that way.
Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me. I mean, I think, people across the state, and not just Democrats, see you as a leader and an integral part of how this state is governed and functions. And in fact, we were teasing you before we hit the record button because the governor shouted you out in her State of the State, and you and Bobby Singleton. She shouted you out, in one way, and then called Singleton her brother from another mother. I was like, "Oh, okay." So,
Yeah.
go ahead and elaborate on the relationship you have with the governor.
So here's where we are on that. The governor
Uh,
has been, since her tenure as governor, has brought myself and Senator Singleton to the table to discuss important issues to our yeah, as it relates to our constituents in the state of Alabama. And so we've been a part of that process. And so, it started out with the gas tax, where that was we were one of the integral parts of really being able to get the gas tax done, because there's a lot of pushback from certain groups that are more conservative, and so certainly that was one of the bills and one of the votes that the governor needed to put together a bipartisan coalition. We certainly are not a no tax group, but we are a low tax group. And if there's a way to provide infrastructure for communities across the state of Alabama, we want to embrace it with open arms. But at the same time, it's always about negotiating too, because you very rarely where a super minority will be in a position to be needed. And so we were able to leverage that. But all in all, the governor and I have been, whether we agreed or disagreed, I've always been honest with her. The efforts that we tried around gaming, and sometimes I'm the only contrarian in the room, and I'm fine with being that. But I try to be the voice of reason to help them understand groups of people that they may not necessarily come in contact with all the time, and then for them to really help me understand the groups of people that I may not come in contact with all the time. And so I think that we've learned to be respectful of each other. I will tell you this: we've always kept our word with each other. Like the prison construction bill, for example, I adamantly opposed that piece of legislation, right? But I was able to negotiate some language into the legislation to help a lot of people, but it was just a fundamental disagreement there. But we move on to the next issue. In
Hmm.
politics, you don't have you just have personal, the interest outweighs the personalities. And so we do lunch, right? We have leadership meetings, we do lunch, and the governor goes around the table and she say, "Hey, what are the priorities for you, Anthony? What's the priority for you, Senator Singleton?" Right? And we're able to talk about these things. A lot of the governor's package bills I was carrying. A lot of the governor's package, the overtime bill. The governor worked with the governor's office, and the governor sent over an amendment after the Senate amended the bill to try to put a cap on it. I told the governor's office I didn't want a cap on the bill. The governor office worked with us, and she sent over an executive amendment to remove the cap. And so I think that being in a red state in its makeup, not in its voting bloc, but in its makeup in the legislature, right? I don't see any state that's in a super minority that's been able to get more done. Nowhere in the country. And so I think that, but the bills in the things in which we've been able to get done has been monumental. You talk
Hmm.
about the overtime tax, you talk about the child care tax credit, right? You're talking about other appropriations for different institutions that we represent, right? Talk about different programs that exist within our districts. And so the same thing with the Speaker of the House. The Speaker and I are friends, and so we talk about uh, priority pieces of legislation. And the Speaker don't co-sponsor bills, but he co-sponsored the bill to eliminate income tax on overtime pay, right? Because he felt it was a great policy. And although we were told that the fiscal note was going to be a certain number, and it didn't happen that way, but we took ownership of that. But it did wonders for the people of Alabama. And so you find those ever since I've been elected, I've always said I'll find issues of common ground and work on those issues, but continue to talk about my disagreement and where we're far apart when we're on opposite sides. And so I don't that's been the model for me the entire time. But I can tell you this, I've never lied in politics. Never. If I tell you something, if I'm going to support something or I'm going to get something, I keep my word. And the governor's kept her word, the speaker, everyone that I work with in the leadership perspective. That's the governor, the speaker, pro tem, minority leader, and all of the, as other executive officers. We've always been honest. And so that goes a long way. And it's like the days of Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, being able to have disagreements, but being able to break bread afterwards and move on to the next issue.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine, God forbid, that we end up with Tommy Tuberville as our next governor. God forbid. I mean, just God forbid, God forbid. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that this unthinkable thing happens. The rapport that you've just described having with Governor Ivey, it's hard for me to imagine that you would be able to have that same rapport with Tuberville based on the bombastic, asinine things that he says on a regular basis. How would you approach a Tuberville? Instead of an Ivy, who I think we all agree is a reasonable person, even if we don't agree with her politically, how would you deal with a Tuberville?
Well, I think for me, I'm hopeful that I don't want to say that the governor's race is going to turn out to be that Tuberville is going to win the race. I don't give up any race, and so I'm certainly very optimistic that
Right,
may not happen.
right.
All right, but
I
if
hope
it
and pray
should
it doesn't.
happen,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
if it should happen, I think for me, I've been sent to Montgomery to represent my constituents. And in my role as minority leader, my job is to be the negotiator, either the tree shaker or the jelly maker for my caucus. And so I'm not going to deviate from that. And so I'm hopeful that he doesn't try to bring Washington D.C. to Montgomery. Um, and I think that if he decides to work with us, if he's so fortunate, and he decides to work with us, we'll work together. But he'll know from me, from my vantage point, that I don't run out of ink. I don't get tired. And so it can be civil or not. I would prefer that it's civil, but if it's not civil, Anthony Daniels don't back down for anything, period, or anyone.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
he's a clown. So maybe that won't happen, and you won't have to deal with that.
Hope and pray not.
First of all, he
Yeah.
doesn't live here, so he should never make it on the ballot. But hopefully that'll be
Right.
settled by the courts. And so, but I want this session in particular. We talked about kind of what we think it might be. What do you, from the Democratic standpoint, what are the priorities? What do y'all want to see happen this session? What do y'all want to see make sure it gets passed?
Well, right now our focus is on issues of affordability. Our agenda will be released on Tuesday, and in that agenda, we'll be talking about issues around affordability. We see the price of groceries continue to skyrocket from year to year, and so you may see a proposal from us that provides a significant investment in local farmers and encouraging production and encouraging local grocery stores within the state and local convenience stores to be able to sell some of the products from those farmers. What would that do? What that will do is it'll start forcing the prices to be more competitive. Yeah, I know that there are people that will tell you that, oh, those prices are so high. But when individuals are governing, they also see that if something costs $10 that used to cost $2, we're getting more money for that item because 10% or 9% of, and in our case at the state level, 4% of $10 is much more than 4% of $2. And so I think you have to look at from a budgetary standpoint, and you have to figure out ways to tighten the belt all the way around so that you're able to, uh, it's going to be harder to project when prices decrease, right? And so, but for me, I would like to see us make the market more competitive by really putting a jump starting and getting our local farmers to be able to sell their products directly to the stores, and with with the opportunity to be able to control costs and become more competitive, then you'll start to see the prices drop. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah, that's that if that could change a lot of things. Not to mention the cost, but also the fact of how healthy a lot of those products are. And if we could lower prices on healthier options for people, that would make a huge difference all the way around. Last thing, and we'll let you get back to work. The the election itself. You're heavily involved behind the scenes most of the time in recruitment, in fundraising, in helping Democrats, get elected. There seems to be right now more excitement on the Democratic side of things than I have seen since maybe the Don Siegelman years. There seems to be a ton of excitement. The top of the ticket with Doug Jones, with other folks that have signed up to run, with the way things are shaping up. Ron Sparks announced for Ag Commissioner yesterday, or qualified for Ag Commissioner yesterday. It seems to be a lot of excitement, a lot of voters out there that are looking and maybe giving a new look at the Democratic Party. Do y'all feel that? Do you feel like that's real at this point? Do you feel like you can build on that and actually make some good headway into breaking that supermajority, first of all, and trying to at least make the Democrats a lot more substantial when it comes to governing this state?
I actually feel a degree of optimism in general. But if there's no work put in and no organizational structure and no intentionality from Democrats in general, I think what Democrats can learn is discipline. Oftentimes we want to focus on the ideological issues, and everyone wants to focus on their particular issue. But you got to get people in a seat to be able to really make change to the ideological issues when you're starting to govern. I think that one of the things that we got to understand is that the other side has a playbook and they follow that playbook. And it's just unfortunate that our folks kind of take their ball and go home sometimes. But I think in this election coming up, I think that you'll see more like-minded individuals that are united as a group. And I think that you'll see a lot of Republicans vote Democrat in this next election. I think that you'll see people, they're the days of, hey, that's that group's problem or that group's problem. But it's like the story of the mousetrap. Now it's impacting you and your home. And so it's a different reaction. And I'm beginning to hear that from people all throughout the state of Alabama, is that this is not what I voted for. When you hear individuals in rural Alabama talk about this is not what I voted for, when they see their insurance premiums double, when they're seeing the prices of groceries significantly increase, when they see their overtime being taken away, those are things that actually matter. And so I see an opportunity for people that talk about issues of affordability. I see those people getting an opportunity to be elected. And I don't think that any election, Democrat or Republican, is off limits right now.
You said something very interesting, Anthony. You said the other side has a playbook. And the implication is that Democrats don't. Now, I've known you, and Josh and I have talked about this a lot. We've known you to be very strategic, a strategic thinker, somebody who does a lot of, you're playing chess, a lot when it comes to politics, if not exclusively when it comes to politics. Are you signaling to us that Democrats don't have a playbook, or are you saying that the Democrats have a playbook but just don't follow it?
So there's not a national playbook, because if you notice from a national standpoint, they've taken a different approach. They're not necessarily pushing back on a lot of the things that are happening. They're allowing these things to play out. And what they've seen is the anger from people at the polls and other places. And so they have a different approach. We're taking more of an offensive approach, but we want all of those that are Democrats that may be for this candidate or that candidate to all be united and understand. It's just that we're not disciplined, David. Right? We don't look at data. We respond by passion. We have to fall in love with the person, right? And at the end of the day, if the person that is leading the ticket is not your candidate, it seems like we take our ball and go home. The other side, they're united behind whoever it is as a candidate. And I just feel that we got to establish more discipline when it comes to once the playoffs are done, okay, and you got your team, you got one team left. Everybody needs to unite behind that particular team instead of trying to be angry and upset and become a spoiler. You're not helping the ticket at that point. You have individuals that have run as a Democrat, David, got kicked off the ballot, and then ran as an independent or write-in. That's not being a team player.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think there are a lot of things, Republicans didn't get in charge of this place by chance. They didn't fall backwards and land in this thing. They had a plan and they executed the plan. And I honestly, I see a lot of similarities in what you want to do and what's been talked about, in building the Democratic Party back up in this state. I see a lot of similarities between that old plan and what's currently going on. And I would love for it to be successful, because, man, we desperately need that two-party state. And I hope that we can get back to that team mindset that a lot of people have, where even, that's what I've preached to people so many times. Listen, I understand that you disagree with Joe Reed, or you disagree with Randy Kelly, or you disagree with Doug Jones, or you disagree with Anthony Daniels, okay? Whatever the case may be. But on most issues, on 99% of issues, of things that really matter in your life, we all agree. we all agree on these things. We're disagreeing on management of the party and who deserves this and who's going to be in this position. And those things are, in the grand scheme of things, rather petty. And so you're right. This team aspect has got to come into play. And hopefully we're to that point. And maybe some people are seeing the writing on the wall that that's the only way to get there.
So I'm hopeful that this will happen in the fall. I mean, going into the fall. But I just want to make certain that those individuals that are out there listening, I think even Republicans feel that there needs to be more of a balance. Individuals that are on the sideline that are playing financially into politics, I think that they would much rather have a balance in order to be able to create good policy that's good for the state, as opposed to what's good for one fringe or the
Yes.
other. And so I think that is something
Yes.
that's healthy for
Yeah.
our state. But I think that there are a lot of good people that are in politics. And I think that what we have to do is start having conversations about continue to have conversations about what's going to move our state forward. And I think that once you start doing that, you'll start to see more growth and more people embrace, because hatred and divisiveness, I've never seen that win out in the end. And some of the policies that have been passed, while you may think that this is sort of the national narrative, is you're smiling today, but you'll be crying tomorrow. Because see, for me, when I see hatred and divisiveness, I send an economic message. I don't spend my money where I see hatred and divisiveness. I choose to spend my money where I see love and unity.
Mhm.
So I think that once
Mhm.
everyone start embracing and paying attention to where they spend their money, then the same people that are yelling the loudest right now or paying for the hatred and divisiveness will either get on board with unity and love, or they'll go bankrupt. We're out of business. And so for me, I like to make these things really expensive for people.
Yeah. Well, hopefully those prices go through the roof pretty quick. So, but hey, man, thank you for coming on, spending some time with us, and letting us know kind of what's going on and keeping us up to date, and helping us out with the podcast. You've been a great friend, a great help with us with this project, and we always appreciate it, and look forward to having you back on, and some of your favorite members and other folks from the Democratic Party on to talk about what's kind of going on this session. So, man, we really do appreciate you. Thank you, Anthony.
No,
Thanks,
thank y'all.
Anthony.
All right.
All right.
That is House Minority Leader Anthony Daniels. Always fantastic to have him on, even though I give him a hell of a hard time whenever he does. But we do appreciate him and the work that coming on and the work that he does and being so devoted to helping people. And, especially, I mean, just, you need to know anything else about him. Look at the work he put in, even after having the health problems and all the other things that were going on. He still continued to work, still out there fighting and doing things and working for people. So we need more. We need a lot more like him. We're gonna slide out. We'll come back. We'll wrap this thing up in just a minute. It's Alabama Politics This Week. Back in a moment. All righty, welcome back. Alabama Politics This Week. Josh Moon, David Person. Our thanks to Anthony Daniels for coming on, spending some time with us. Always appreciative of the minority leader for coming in. As I've said many times, it almost feels like cheating to have Anthony on, because I talk to Anthony often. He and I agree on a lot of things, on a lot of the ways of government. I think, to me, he's the perfect representative for me. I mean, I know it's not for everybody, and I'm not, you find yours in person, but the way he thinks about things and the way I think about things are pretty much in line. And so it's almost like having me on whenever he's on. And plus he's got a good sense of humor, and he's smart, and he's not an asshole. And, those are all good qualities that I look for in a politician.
Knowing him through the years, man, I just, the guy is such a smart, strategic thinker. That's what I've really come to admire about him. He's got a clear vision, and he knows, you can agree or you can disagree, but there's no question that he has a clear sense of what he thinks should happen and why, and he's thought several steps ahead. That doesn't mean you're always going to agree, but he's definitely in my opinion, he's one of the smartest guys in Alabama politics, without question.
People don't know it. He'll never get the credit for it. He's been one of the most successful people in getting folks elected, and helping to fund and support other Democratic candidates up and down the ballot. He's probably been the most successful representative, and I think people probably know this, on the Democratic side in getting legislation passed.
Yeah,
he is very, very good. He's very business minded. And he's one of those people. Like, again, this is one of the things that we're in line with, which is, it's I'm a very kind of pro-military. I'm a pro-business, pro-worker guy, and I believe those two things can coexist with one another. I believe that you can have pro-business policies and help especially small businesses, and cut through a lot of red tape and cut through a lot of the taxes and things. I think we could do a lot more actually for small businesses than what we do. And I think that at the same time, we could incentivize them to treat their workers better, pay their workers more, give them a living wage. And listen, this is what I think also. Most small business owners would welcome that. They would welcome the opportunity to have margins in which they could pay their workers more and offer them better benefits and ensure that they could stay around and hang with them more, because a lot of people really do think of, especially in small businesses, really do think of their folks as like family.
Well,
I know that's been a cliche, and and it has been cliched, and so
they tend to operate in a lot more intimate spaces and have a lot more reliance on each other. So two things can be true. Definitely.
Yes,
two things can be true.
So our thanks to him. Our thanks to the folks at Wind Creek Entertainment for sponsoring, keeping us running. Same for the SPLC. Really appreciate them for hanging with us and doing stuff. And we're going to get out here pretty quick because one of us has a date at dance class with a 7-year-old who is my daughter. So
I was going to say, you might want to clarify that just a little bit,
especially in this climate. Good Lord. It's but we're going to get out, but we're going to get to the Bonehead, the right wing Bonehead of the week. One that we should really actually probably name the Bonehead Award for him. The Donald J. Trump Memorial Bonehead Award, and because it is one Donald John Trump, but for his idiotic statement in an interview that white people have been treated very poorly since the passage of the Civil Rights Act. But I will say, I have been treated very poorly.
Have you suffered?
I've suffered so much, David. There was a time that I submitted job applications, and those job applications were rejected just because my name sounded white.
Say it ain't so.
Actually,
say it ain't so.
Actually, it's not so. But I did submit college applications, and I did not get in, even though my grades were superior to some other people. But because I was a black student, I didn't make it into the college. But that's also not true.
I was going to say, I thought you were white. I thought you were white.
But I will say this.
Okay.
When I went to get a home loan, loan,
here we go.
I went to get a home loan, and I put in my application for this home loan. And because of the neighborhood I was applying in, they said no white people in there, and completely. No, wait a minute. That's not me either. That never happened.
Yeah, didn't quite work that way.
That didn't happen to me.
Yeah. So here's the and here's the thing that I think, in addition to your great satire there, here's the thing that I think really just makes the president sound not just like a bigot, but just like a stupid bigot. Okay, so white people weren't treated fairly. All right. So before the Civil Rights Act was passed, what was happening to black people? You got to juxtapose the two in order for this to make sense, right? So what was happening to black people? They were being lynched in record numbers. I would argue, because any lynching really is a record that should not be aspired to. And they were being lynched and really tragic numbers. Black people weren't able to, because of Jim Crow, they weren't able to get the same educational opportunities. They weren't able to get the same, housing opportunities, employment opportunities, as you just alluded to satirically. We weren't, my ancestors weren't even able to drink at the same water fountains, use the same public facilities. There was an array of things that society had prohibited Black people from being able to experience simply because they were Black. There was an array of social mores that dictated life for Black people, leaving them at a severe disadvantage. And we're not even getting into the whole legacy of slavery that was left, even after 1865. So between 1865 and 1964, there was this whole real, for the most part, this whole real struggle on behalf of Black people to get equal opportunities and, frankly, just to stay alive.
Yeah.
Just to stay alive.
Yeah.
And
No,
yet,
you're
and
right.
yet Trump is saying, well, white people weren't treated fairly. Compared to what?
Right.
Compared to what?
Well, listen. Here's the thing, though. The satire, the satirical situations that I brought up, those have all occurred to Black people in this country since the passage of the Civil Rights Act. Since the passage, all of these investigations into the redlining and the discrimination that has gone on in job applications and all of these things, all of those things have gone on. Remember that like 9-month stretch that we went through where every corporation in America took a look at their hiring practice and said, we've really failed. And publicly came out and fell on swords and talked about, we look at these numbers, and we ran the stats, and people were like, "Ooh, that is pretty shitty," and we all agreed with this as a country. And then we've slowly peeled it back to now we've got the president of the country talking about how unfair it was to white people that we gave equal rights to Black people. And it's
and not just equal rights, but try to create corrective actions to try to correct some of the things that had happened that had placed Black people at a historic disadvantage financially and in every possible way.
Yeah, I've heard people complain for my whole life around me about affirmative action and about how unfair affirmative action was because it discriminated against white people. And yet somehow, white people continue to hold remarkable advantages in terms of executives at companies, in terms of all the power positions in this country. White people remained in large control of those things.
That's right.
And, here, there's been an example I think that most people can grasp because the unfairness of things. Here's a way that you can grasp it. In the NFL today, there's something called the Rooney Rule. And the Rooney Rule simply says that when an NFL head coaching position or certain assistant coaching positions become available, that the organization must interview a certain number of Black candidates for that job. All right. They don't have to hire them. They don't even have to really take it seriously. They've just got to get them in the room, go through the typical hiring process with Black candidates the same way they do with white candidates. That's all they've got to do. Do you know how unbelievably successful that has been in placing Black head coaches in the NFL? Look at the number of Black head coaches that are in the NFL versus the number of Black head coaches in college.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just because you put them in the room and you gave them familiarity that was denied to them previously. That's it.
Even and we can say this even though Mike Tomlin with the Pittsburgh Steelers was fired this week. Nonetheless, he had an extremely long tenure. He had an extremely successful tenure from a win-loss perspective. And you're right, the Rooney Rule created opportunities for him as well as for others. I just want to also point out that studies show, and this is how bad it's been for white people, in this country. Studies show that and this is from the Brookings Institute, that the median wealth gap between black people and white people increased by $51,800. $51,800.
Since when?
Between 2019 and 2022.
Jesus Christ.
No, I'm sorry. I cited the wrong figure. It's a little bit less. It's $49,950, which is still very significant.
50 grand. 50 grand.
Yeah, basically 50 grand. Yeah. So you think about that, but white people have been treated horribly. I mean, just horribly. In 2022, Brookings says for every $100 in wealth held by white households, black households held only $15. Now, granted, we live in an America where you got billionaire black people. I get that, and lots of millionaires due to sports and entertainment, and even some corporate stuff and business enterprises. But the fundamental gap in wealth and financial security between white households and black households not only still exist, but it is astronomical.
Yeah. Listen, I hate to come back to sports for all of these things.
Okay.
But to me, I'll say that to me, sports provides us with the clearest example of what would happen in this country if we leveled the playing field for everybody. Okay. And you look at sports in the 70s or so, Bear Bryant went and got the first black athlete at Alabama because he knew USC had come in and kicked his ass, and they were never going to be able to compete if they didn't go out and get black athletes. And it wasn't, some the great uniter, integrator Bear Bryant. He wanted to win. He wanted to win, and he saw the writing on the wall, and this was the way to win. And so, but from that point forward, athletics has been the most level playing field, for lack of a better term, level playing field that we have in this country to judge white people and black people. And it's transcended out of those sports because of it. You look at the number of black athletes that come from poverty-stricken homes and poverty-stricken areas and very poor schools, but they can play sports very well. They are highly recruited, highly sought after. Okay, take a look at them versus their peers at those same schools, those same black students at those schools. And because somebody went there and devoted the resources to them to get them out of those schools and put them into position to play at the next level in college and in the pros or wherever they may go, but specifically into college, all of a sudden, kids who are in these failing schools, as we like to call them in Alabama, and in poverty-stricken areas that historically have underperformed tremendously, somehow or another, the top athletes have a 90+% success rate at graduating, at getting into college, at being accepted into college, and then graduating from college with a degree and going on to a successful life somewhere. And so it tells you that the skin color of someone has never been what held them back, ever. Has never been what held them back. The culture has never been what held them back, except for the culture of racism that placed black folks into these shitty schools all these years and gave them the worst books, the worst teachers, the worst everything, and no support whatsoever because we called them failing and got our white kids the hell out of there as fast as we could into the breakaway school systems and the charter schools and the private schools and wherever else we could put them. And then we left those kids behind. And we pretended that it was just because of the color of their skin that they couldn't perform at levels when we know for a fact that they can. We see it every day in every athletic team and every college. We know that most of those kids were pulled from those schools, were pulled from shitty situations, were pulled out of that poverty, and they are succeeding in life and in the classroom every single day at rates most of the time higher than the white kids. And we just set on this shit and we just pretend like we don't know it.
And of course, I know we're almost out of time, but people like me who grew up in the inner city and who went to predominantly black schools know that the propaganda, the white supremacist propaganda about black people and intellect and education is bullcrap. It's foolishness. Nothing to it. It makes zero sense, and there's nothing to back it up. And I know this for a fact because of test scores. You look at the test scores that many of us were able to achieve in middle school and high school, and I'm talking about on the standardized test, where we were competing with children from across the country. It's foolishness. Absolute foolishness.
It's absolute. It is. We've not suffered a second. We've not suffered a second, and it's complete and utter horseshit. It really is. It's complete and utter horseshit. So. All righty, we're going to slide out of here.
All right, man.
Till next week. Y'all be safe out there.
Peace.